what made divorce look so easy, it was being projected by Hollywood movies. You understand? Because Hollywood is the flagship of the Matrix.
Yeah.
So I feel I gave 100%. But I don't know, maybe it was not enough. And I think one of the most weird thing was when the story came out, and when I was doing the interviews, I think one of the most weird thing that I noticed from the comments, everyone was just like, they wanted to hear me talking bad about my ex. And I used to find that to be so absurd and weird.
Do the kids ask questions, and what kind of answers do you provide?
Kids must ask questions because they're at that tender age of being inquisitive and wanting to know.
Why are you guys not together?
All those questions will always come. So these videos
will play.
You understand? In the next 20, 30 years from now. So can you imagine one day your son is seated like this in his living room and watching you
trash their mother?
You understand? One of the best things that has ever happened in our generation is seeing a woman being empowered. But on the flip side, by the time the woman was being empowered, no one was telling these men how, or showing them how to handle an empowered woman. If I look back and only say, the only regret I have, I wish I had married early.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I wish I married early.
Around what age?
20-something.
A very good morning to you and a warm welcome to LNS. My name is Lynn Ngugi. Guys, I've missed you. I know it's been a while, but hey, sometimes we gotta take a break. And I can't thank you for the amazing, incredible support you have given our series, LNS Rebuilding. I brought you incredible people who opened their hearts. And I just want to say thank you to them also for just coming and just inspiring you. And I hope we learned something. My guest today is no stranger on our TV screens. Ama niseme kwa YouTube channels. I just feel like he has, not that I feel, but I know he has a very, very deeper way of thinking. And today I'm so happy to have this conversation with him, because when I asked him, Daddy Owen, what do you think we need to talk about? He was so open. Mental health, depression, divorce, and we will be able, his music, and we'll be able to know how exactly is he rebuilding his life and his great mission that he has towards empowering the boy child. And I was just telling him, the only thing I dislike about people who are coming up and talking about empowering the boy child is because they are making it a gender war. I believe our men can be empowered without making this a men and women issue. So he will be able to tell us extensively about how he intends to do that. But before I let him introduce himself, my people, I have to say thank you so much to our amazing partners at Kings Developers Limited. Hey, guys, I say it's not kila saa that you might see lazima upate watu that are willing to walk with you through this journey. But Kings Developers Limited have always been here, and I love the support that you are giving them. They are a real estate company that is ISO certified, meaning you can trust them and you can trust their apartments, their buildings. They have great amenities and they have flexible payment plans. So if you are looking for an apartment, please go visit them at Prism Towers. Ask them about, between hizo high-end apartments that they have, from Orchid to Vintage to Apollo apartments. And I believe you'll be able to get something that suits you only if you can. Now, our editor tells me, if you are watching this episode without having subscribed, you are doing a great disservice to our platform. Please subscribe so that our work can be able to reach more people, so that we are able to empower and bring you impactful stories every other time. And now, without further ado, please allow me to let this gentleman that looks so good introduce himself. Good morning.
Let me introduce myself.
Hey!
Let me reintroduce myself.
Reintroduce yourself.
My name is Owen Mwatia, aka Daddy Owen, aka Papa Fololo, aka Uncle Mutulele, aka Lina Le Pepino, aka Mokoto Nanga for chasing away the evil spirits. And I'm in the house.
Hey, you in the house? You are in the You are chasing away what?
The evil spirit.
Hey, how do you do that?
Through prayer.
Hey, so do you like wake up and pray and
of
like
course.
evil spirits be
Of
gone?
course,
Yeah.
man. I used to be an intercessor in our church. Yeah, yeah. That's another story that we need to lead to.
Yeah, man, nice to have you here.
Thank
but
you.
I can't have this conversation even start without asking the most common question some of the audience will be asking. Where and how is Rafton?
Raf is fine. My brother is fine. He's doing well. You know him, he loves politics.
Yes.
So him is more into politics and all that. And of course, he's projected for the next election. And even right now, he's working closely with the government.
Yes, yeah. I have always been a fan of the both of you.
Yeah.
And you know, I just remember that when that song, Sifu Bwana moyo wangu sichoke. Now I'm about to ask where is Henry Motuko. I'm about to ask where are so many of you, but pass our regards to Rafton. Yeah, good guy that one. That's a good man. But karibu sana.
Asante.
Hey, looking good. You clean up nice, man.
Thank you so much.
Kiatu ni Lacoste. Ama leo ni Tommy Hilfiger.
No, ni Tommy.
Watch me.
Watch me. Partake.
Glasses.
Tusiende sana. Tusiende sana.
Ebu kwanza tell them where you always show up with that look.
It's so weird, yeah? It's something that I got used to, because I used to have a huge challenge. Of course, I used to struggle with esteem because of my eye. And I remember even before I did my first video, it was a huge challenge because I was like, everyone would be looking at my eye more than, and then someone told me, so you can just wear shades. So since that time, sometimes I used to feel like it's a way of hiding one of those weaknesses that I have. But eventually, I turned it to be like a swagger or my identity. But the real story behind it, it was more about a self-esteem issue.
How are you now?
I'm fine. No, I'm fine because it's been 20 years now doing the same thing. And I really appreciate who I am today. But
it's a good look. I was just loving some of the conversations that we were having off camera. You are actually very authentic and transparent. But is that how you've always been? Or did you get to this self-awareness stage of, I have to be this authentic with myself?
No, I think I've been like that for many years. Because even the longevity of my career, it shows you that there's something that people feel understand about me. And I've always been very real. I've never been a fake guy and all that. And even through my salvation, through my ministry, because being here for 20 years and being relevant for all those 20 years, it's a different story altogether. It's not a joke.
Those are 2 decades. 20-year-olds are watching you right now and they're like, oh my God, you started doing it when I was born. So congratulations.
I thank God.
That's not something I take for granted. For me, discipline, consistency, and wanting something and moving towards one goal and accomplishing it, for me, that's a big deal. But I want to take a seat nini hapa back before my people say, Lynn, unaongea so much. And let you take us through. But before we can even kickstart this conversation, what the theme for our series is rebuilding. What are you rebuilding in your life right now?
First and foremost, is just my inner self, my awareness, my spirituality, there's more of, I always say there's the flesh, and then there's the solical, and then there's the spiritual. So the solical, it's more of, because spiritual is, unless someone who is more spiritual or someone who at par spirituality in spirituality can really understand you. But the solical realm is whereby now people can feel how real you are and how you're speaking, like the way you always talk. And guys always say, hey, Lynn can make you talk and say things that you didn't want to say because you speak to the soul. So for me, I was like, I have to build my solical part because I believe a man is a tripartite. Like the same way there's a trinity, even a man, there are 3 things that defines who you are. So the end product is what we see out now as the man himself, the flesh and everything. But if you rebuild your soul and rebuild your spiritualism, of course, we'll see a very different outcome. So many things always, there are different trajectories in life that make you move from one destination to another destination, or from moving from one glory to another glory. And I had to work so hard to make sure that there's a phase that I was in, and now there's a new phase. But sometimes it can be only in your mind. But how do you project it out for guys to see, this guy has transformed from this person
to this person?
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge. Because the worst thing is, if you don't be intentional about it, it will happen, because it's bound to happen. The worst thing is, when it happens and you had not prepared for it to happen, sometimes it can get you off guard. So most of us sometimes in situations, so many situations about us in life, they can get you flat foot. But if you're intentional about it, whenever change happens, because change is inevitable, but by the time it happens and you had planned for it, you always feel like, I know how to maneuver. You understand? It's not something that I always feel like, hey, this one, imenipata off guard. But the moment you projected is going to happen, and then now you are walking in through and you're like, now I know it might go left or right. So there's no surprises. That's what I'm working.
That's what you're working.
I'm rebuilding who I'm projecting to be, because, hitting 40 is like, 40 is like, it changes so many things about you. Like, for me, I always feel like now you're entering into, I call it the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the LXG. And these are men who now you define how the society should be, how society, you're like the bedrock of society. So by the time I hit 40, I was like, there's so much I want to change about who people know as Daddy Owen.
Okay, good. I think I can feel it. That's the most important aspect. I can feel it. I know they know you for your art. They know you for your incredible songs. I think you are a pioneer. And for that, we give you your flowers. And you are those people that you've remained consistent and you're still there. Worshipping the same God you worshipped from day one. I don't want to concentrate on the art more, because I know they know more about you. But there's this question I have to ask. In an era where so many artists transitioned and they went different ways, what kept you intact? And were there moments you felt like, I need the money, so God, I have to leave you for a while. I'm come back, because you're still God. You'll welcome me when I come back, but I need to chase this paper because that's where the money is. Why did you remain solid? And who is God to you?
Number one, I want to say, I really want to shed some light into that narrative. The narrative that people move from gospel to secular because of money. Number one, I always say, I always feel like, I don't think there's money in secular, because the same money you can still make in gospel. It's just how you plan yourself. The difference comes on the lifestyle. The hardest part that guys feel like is the biggest challenge is the lifestyle. Being a gospel artist is one of the hardest things in this country, because you see, so many people can be Christians, but no one is like an arbiter to watch your, there are more moral arbiters to watch what you do. But just because you're a worshiper in church and all that, maybe it's only your congregation. But now when you become a gospel musician, it's like the whole country, they become arbiters to watch what you do and what you say and how you behave in front of everyone. And the moment that comes, it's a huge challenge for you as a musician or a gospel artist, because fortunately or unfortunately, music, it consists of what we call 360. There's the lifestyle, there's the fashion, there's the art itself, which is the music and all these things. And of course, now there are other things which comes, the cousins. The cousins now are the women, the happy life. You understand? Yeah,
we are the cousins.
No, I'm just saying, to the music industry. Those are people who those are the things that come with. They always say it comes with the territory. So those are the things that come with. So the biggest challenge for any gospel musician is you feel like, now I want to live like a musician. And how did we project how musicians should live? Musicians should have big cars.
Yes.
Musicians should
Swag.
have women, should have swag, you understand, all those things. So you might have the money, but you're like, now, how do I floss this money? How do I show off this money?
Yeah.
You understand? And why am I showing it off? Because there must be a reason why you're showing it off, which is, I don't understand, but there must be a reason why you're showing it off. So when the issue about women come into the picture, it becomes a challenge for you as a gospel artist, because you're like, I'm a gospel artist, all these women want me, but now I can't do anything with them because I'm a gospel artist.
Yeah.
But the moment you feel like you turn that title to become just a secular artist, you feel you're liberated, because you're like, now I'm a musician, I have the money, I have the fame, I have the popularity, I have, you understand? Yes. And now even the women are coming.
Yeah.
Because mostly men, we are born with that thing inside us that we need to conquer. You understand? Conquer territories. That's why even in the Bible, they used to say they went and conquered that territory and they took the women. And the gold and the silver.
Something is in my mind. The lion, the conqueror is here. Sorry.
So that's who we are. We are conquerors. Don't. That's who we are. So men, that's something you always feel like you want to achieve. And sometimes, unfortunately, there's a narrative that by conquering, the same narrative of we went to that territory and we took their women is still in us. You always feel like, there you go, and now I'm a secular artist, now I can have all the women that I want walking around with all these women, and no one will question me. Because right now, I can do all these things and no one will question me. But you see, with gospel, you can't do that. Because it's more about how astute are you? How firm are you? You understand? What is your moral code? Who do you represent? And what does it define? How is it defined? By being a Christian. You understand? You need to be at home. You don't need to go clubbing. You understand? All these things are what defines who you, because there's that level of responsibility you're given, because everyone has their own definition of how you should live as a Christian.
I've always wanted to ask this question. Yeah. I'm happy you're here.
Yes.
What is it with men and women, right? You go even to the greatest in the Bible. David, women. Samson, women. Solomon, women. Abraham, women. What is it with women and men that a woman can easily bring a strong man to their knees?
Let's go to the Genesis.
Yes.
The devil knew that he can't convince Adam. You understand?
Yeah.
The devil knew he can't convince Adam. But he knew the easiest way is to use a woman.
Are you saying we are weak?
No, and who said women are weak?
In
fact, women make men become weak. It's not that women are weak. No. The narrative here is, by the time Eve came, she's the one who convinced Adam. You understand?
Yeah.
And it's more of how convincing you guys are. You understand? A woman can convince you to do things that
you wouldn't do.
You wouldn't do. Looking back, you're like, how did I do that? So that's the thing. It's more of we as men, or we as human beings, we tend most of the time, to go the evil way than the good way. Our hearts are always cornered to do the wrong thing. That's why God is always calibrating us and telling us, no, come back to the right path. Come back to the right path.
Yes.
And one of the easiest things, even before you get married, most men, given a choice, they will choose to be fornicators than getting married to a one woman. That's just who we are. It's just our nature. It's just in us. Most men. There are few who will say, but most men. That's who we are. It's like, you feel like it's easier to go that route than the other way. That's why nasemanga, kesha pata bibi atatulia. What is kutulia? You understand? Yeah. You understand? Yeah, because it's in our nature to feel like now I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this with many women.
Yes.
Because it's more of a thrill to you. It's in us. It's more of a thrill to you.
Yeah.
And these are the things that will always make men fall. All great men, most of the time, they fall because of women. You understand? But they always say, behind every successful woman, there's a woman. There's a woman.
So you can also be successful.
Yeah.
It's a choice you make.
It just depends on how you turn the narrative. You understand? So most men, of course, like if you read the story of David, they say it was an afternoon. And this afternoon, it's known because during those days, they used to go to war at a certain time. Because you see, in that area, they're affected by climate like Europe, whereby there's autumn, there's spring, there's winter. So there are days you can just go for war.
Yeah.
So during those days, at that time, when guys were going for war, David didn't go for war. And that afternoon, when he didn't go for war, is when now he was walking around the rooftop and he spotted Bathsheba taking a bath. You understand? And he was like, who is that? So the story here is, if you went for war,
that would have been prevented.
You understand? And even Bathsheba, maybe she was taking a bath on the rooftop because she knew all the men have gone for war. And that's how the downfall of David started. Because if you read from there moving forward, everything crumbled.
Good. It's nice that we are talking, right? Yeah. I feel like we are good now. I want to touch on marriage, right? And for this, I want to keep it your version because this is a two-sided conversation. So I want to talk about you as a man now entering marriage, right? Because you turned 40.
Yeah.
So between 30 and 40, I feel like that's where a lot of pressure is for people to either marry or get married. Settle, get key. You feel like you are always on a clock. I'm 30 as a woman. I should already have kids. I'm 35 as a man. I should be sitting with my family, now raising kids, right? Your entry into marriage, what were you looking for? And what did you know?
If you remember, well, I've said, there are things in life that should never get you flat-footed. So most people rush because we are not taught or we don't prepare early about marriage. You understand? So you reach a point, you're like, oh my goodness, time is fleeting. I'm not married. I don't have kids. So you start doing, you just jump into this ship without looking at the consequences, without looking at, you understand? But when everything is projected and planned, I'm not saying that things will not happen, but at least you have an overview that, this one, I'd predicted it will happen. So I know how to handle it. So most of the time, you find yourself engulfed in other things because most men are like, you have to make it in life, you have to make it. But what is making it? Let's talk about the men now. Everyone tells you, no, you have to make money first before you get married. But what is money? How much is enough? How much? You understand my point? Because this is a good example. At 18, you've married at Form 4.
Yes.
So the first thing, they'll tell you, hey, go to university. So you go to university, you pick 4 years. Yeah. Around 23 years. At 23, you're like, hey, you're still young. You can't get married right now. Look for a hustle. You pick a jobs here and there, and then at 25, unaangukia job. As a man, unaangukia job. Ukishaangukia job, your job at that time, it can only pay your fare. You understand? It's just, you understand? Hata wewe mwenyewe, you ration how much you're going to eat per day. So eventually, that job you pick it from 25 to 27. So at 27, ndo unaanza kupata job poa kiasi. And then from there, as a man, you're being told, that lady, she's not your class. Look for someone who is your class.
God damn it.
You are hitting 30. You understand? By the time you hit 30, things start changing. Because there's no guarantee that at 30, you're making that money. Because now, a lady who you're looking at, she's around 25. This chick who's 25, her projection, she's already being exposed to men who are richer than you.
What?
At 25, you are 30. So for you, you're like, I want to bag that chick. I want to make sure that I must bag her. So let me work hard. But when you're working hard, you're hitting 33. Now you started being a little bit stable. Now you're becoming a little bit stable. Now that chick who was 25, maybe right now she's 29. Of course, now she comes to your life. But she comes to your life with a lot of pressure. Because for her, now she wants to get kids, she wants, understand, all these things. So you, as a man, if you didn't plan for it, you're confused in the first place. You're like, oh, so you have to get kids. Oh, so you have to move from this house to this. Oh, so you want to, you understand, you have to change the environment. So you work under pressure to impress this woman because she's your wife at that time. And she has her own demands. So she wants to live her dream in you. But you, where you are at that moment, you can't afford it. You can't afford it. You're just pushing to prove you are a man. You're like, hey, I'm a man. A man must go out and work and do all these things. So if you ask men right now, young men right now, who are in their 30s, they are so scared about getting married because the pressure that an empowered woman comes with. Because she's 25, but she knows what she wants. She's 30, she knows what she wants. So you as a man, the only example is like you are in a desert. And then you're in this wilderness. And then these snakes come and start biting people. And then God says, hey, erect a snake. If you're bitten by a snake, there's a bronze snake that all of you need to look at and get healed, yeah? So for you, the only bronze snake or a copper snake that you know is your dad. And the way you saw your dad run the family is very different from what you're seeing right now. Because what you saw from your dad, that's the pure example of how a man should be. And what you saw from your mom is how a woman should be. But that mom, that your mother, doesn't exist anymore. So you're confused. I never saw my mom doing this to my dad. So how should I
handle?
Yes. So those are the challenges that happen right now because we are in a phase whereby there's a huge transition of society and generations. And like I always say every day, most men right now, most young men right now are not empowered. They are not empowered to handle an empowered woman. That's the biggest challenge. I always say, it's one of the best things that has ever happened in our generation is seeing a woman being empowered. But on the flip side, by the time the woman was being empowered, no one was telling these men how or showing them how to handle an empowered woman. Because most of us, if you ask most men right now, if they go for advice, their dad and their uncles will give them a very different advice. And their advice is more, mwanamuke, lazima afanye hivi. You understand? But you're like, those happen, but those things were they could only apply in those days. Right now, can they apply? So men are in a dungeon. They are lost. Most men are lost right now. They're like, okay, this person. Because one of the confused narrative I always feel is this is going to be very controversial. I think the thing or the narrative should not be equality. It should be equity. Because you see, the moment you say equality, it brings a fight. You understand? But equity is like, oh, all these are here. Let's now feel like, hey, everyone should be getting this and this. You understand? Yeah. But when you say equality, is like it's a tug of war. You have to pull for me to get mine, and you have to pull. So, of course, women fought for it to get their share, which they had to fight. I totally understand. But as of now, I feel women are more empowered, which is very good. But now, who is looking at these young men and telling them, this is how you should handle an empowered woman?
I feel like my silence will be a betrayal to a lot of women that are watching, right?
Yes, yes.
Though I do agree with you on a couple of things, right? But where I always try to draw the line, where I always say, that's why I said it shouldn't be a gender, a war on gender.
Yeah.
I'm empowered. There's nothing you can do about it, Daddy Owen. I'm already empowered.
Yeah.
And what people will not make me feel is guilt. The guilt of being empowered. I cannot shrink right now because I'm already here. But I feel for the man that is not there yet, right? So for me, we had this conversation earlier on in a different setup, and I said, it's not our problem.
No.
That you men
Can't catch up.
Can't catch up, right? My problem is with the men that are talking about this whole women empowerment as if it's an issue. The issue is these same men won't tell you what they are doing to empower even their brothers and sisters. Like I was asking Joshua when we were coming, it's okay. Women, we already empower. But show me a man right now. You see, it's a topic to cash in real quick because that's what's there. The same way a lot of people cashed in on the girl child movement, right? Empowering the girl child. But I always feel like, show me men who are teaching these other young men skill set, right? Mindset, right? Who are empowering them without making the woman look like the woman is the enemy. Because the narrative now changes to wasichana hawezi tuambia. Now it becomes a war of gender, and I feel like that's where the problem is going to be. Once now we start making the boy, because me, I have a huge heart for young men. I even said my organization, unfortunately or fortunately, will have to do with young men, right? Because I can see, we were even saying, you walk on the streets, the number of young men you'll see on the street, wameanguka huko, they look lost. Tuesday we were just driving and I just look, another man was just sitting by the fence na ako tu hivi. You can tell his mind is not there. And for me, that's where my passion is right now. But I cannot have a society also of men who make it look like empowering a woman was a crime. It wasn't. And I'm already empowered. And I can't shrink. And thousands of the women watching can't shrink. So for me, I always ask, you as a man who is here or who is watching, in your small circle of friends, what are you doing with those young men around you without trying to make them think the woman is an enemy? We are not your enemy.
If you rewind the tape,
yes,
there's a part I said, the best thing that happened to this generation.
I appreciate you. I heard it and I was like, that's why I didn't even ask any question.
The best thing that happened in this generation is when women went to Beijing and they became empowered. I think it was 92 or something, or 95. And they became empowered. That's one of the best things that ever happened. You understand? It's the same way we abolished, they abolished slavery and all these things. And now, you see, the men can start being victims. And like I said, if there are things in life, if you don't sit down and project and be intentional about it,
yes, we will fail.
You understand? Change will find, because change is inevitable. Change will find you flat-foot. And it will be bad on you.
Because we are on a crisis right now.
Yes. So we need to be very intentional by saying there are things that we need to change. And I believe it should start from the foundation. I went to a school, one of these high schools, 3 or 4 weeks ago. And a teacher called me and was like, hey, Owen, we need to talk. And I was like, now it's a boys' school. And the teacher was like, I think we have a crisis. And I asked her, what's the crisis? And she was like, number one, I feel like most of these boys, they don't have good mentorship of how they need to transit from being boys to men. That's number one. Number two, they lack a father figure and all these things. Number three, there's no roadmap. There's no clear roadmap on what me as a lady need to tell them. This is a clear roadmap. Understand? And then number 4, of course, what she said, it was controversial, but I was like, we can't just dig our nini in the sand.
Yes.
You understand? Because whatever she said is controversial, but it's true. She was like, most of these young boys who are here, they're being brought up by single mothers. You understand? And they're confused in between. So I ask her, go deeper in your story, tell me more. And she's like, they don't know how they need to show their masculinity. Because it's like, the moment you show it too much, you're being told you're toxic. The moment
you show is less,
you're being told you're weak. Men should not be weak. And the moment you come out outrightly, they're like, hey, you're becoming toxic. So it's a conversation that we need to have. Where do they stand? Because the lady was like, if we don't give them a roadmap right now, we are raising different kind of a breed of men.
I know the perfect people for you to have that conversation with. That would be Joshua J. Karanja on the men's desk. We also have a very incredible person who comes on and off on the show, Eric of Maridadi Motors, because these are topics they are very passionate about, right? And I feel like even me, I want to dig deeper because it's confusing. You know, you go on YouTube, right? And you watch, I know we have that person in common, Andrew Tate. And you see there are men, also women, who are like, he's telling the truth, no matter how controversial he is, right? And Andrew Tate is someone who can get you cancelled real quick. They'll hear Lynn talking about Andrew Tate and you even get cancelled for even talking about him or even showing that you even listen to him. But for me, this clip is getting almost 30 million views. These comments are coming from real people with real issues. And if our young men are starting to look up to people like Andrew, we can dip our feet on the sand and see. And I don't have a problem. For me, my opinion on Andrew remains private. It's not an opinion I feel safe putting out there. You get what I'm saying, right? But I feel like if our young men are also going to listen outside, you know, this issue is a crisis. You see,
we can go back to even what the Bible says. The Bible says, let's start with which verse? Let me say, faith comes by hearing. It means it's something that is like it's like a computer that needs to be fit with the software. So faith comes by hearing. But it doesn't stop there. It says, and by hearing the word of God. It means there's a software that is correct that needs to be downloaded in that CP or anything. So the moment the young men are open to anything, it means anything that looks like that software will be fitted into that computer and they'll pick it. So what we should do is get the right software to fit it so that the processor knows this is a software that needs to run this
machine.
I feel like Andrew Tate is just answering on the gap that is there. There's a huge gap. A gap of mentorship, a gap of understanding the real narrative, a gap. And it's really hard for anyone to blame him because he saw an opportunity. Everyone is an opportunist. And he saw an opportunity that there's so many young men who don't have anyone to look up to. There's a day I took my sons out and even his friends were talking about the top G. And I'm like, these are kids. You understand? Yeah? But you ask yourself, if they can be allowed, because even for us in our days, there are people who are doing stuff, and it was so easy for you to look at them and you're like they can be your heroes. But your dad was always there telling you these guys are doing the wrong thing. You understand? But if there's no one who's telling them this is wrong, this is right,
a voice of reason.
You understand? who will we blame? Because there's no one telling them that. And every human being has that gap in them. That space in them. They always feel like this gap or this space must be filled with something.
It's something.
You understand? It's more of a soul searching.
It's an open
experience.
space that needs filling.
Yeah, you understand? And that's what happens. So right now, you asked me a very important question. I believe even before we started gospel music, I can give a brief history for people to understand where I'm headed.
Yeah.
Before we started gospel music, I remember I released my first song and I took it to a radio station. At that time, I think it was only Capital FM, which was existing as an FM station. I think Capital and Metro. But Capital was on top of the rest. So when I took it there, the first time they didn't play it. The second time they didn't play it. So one day I went there and one of the producers sat me down and he was like, you see, you're saying you're doing gospel music. But the problem here is, you see, a gospel song cannot be played anywhere because we have a playlist of certain music that we play at this hour and this hour and this hour. So you don't have a gospel section. So I asked him a very important question. I asked him, what can I do for us to have a gospel section? He was like, hey, that one, it means we need to have like more than 100 songs for us to create a gospel program. And I was like, oh, 100 songs. I went and I found my friends, 10 of them. And I was like, all of us should do 10 songs, 10 songs, 10 songs, 10 songs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Owen.
Yeah. And we did that. So we took it to Capital. We used to call ourselves Campi Cristo. So it was me, Rafton, SK Blue, and all these guys. We took it to Capital. And they were like, oh, now we need to get guys calling in because it was more of there's a show used to be called, I think, Kids Not Homework by Eve D'Souza.
Yes.
And it's more of this show is the playlist is determined by the audience. The ones who are calling in. They're like, oh, so you have a number for guys to call in? Yeah. So I took the number. I told the guys, now, let's go to high schools. Let's go to high schools and perform these songs. Yeah. When these songs become famous, let's give these kids this number.
To call in.
And
request.
So, by that time, there was, now it was around August. Shulezi Mefunga and all that. They were calling in and they were requesting, hey, can I request for Haijalishi by Daddy Owen? So these guys were like, what is Haijalishi by Daddy Owen? Who is Daddy Owen? What is Haijalishi and all that? So eventually one of the producers called me and they're like, hey, they're requesting for your song. And I'm like, I gave you that song long time ago. So they're like, oh, by now, we don't know where it is. Just bring us another copy.
Yeah.
And that's how the transition of gospel started. So it means before we started the revolution of gospel music, we were intentional on what we want to do.
I see where you're going. Good job.
You understand?
Good job.
We were very intentional. And we were like, for any generation to change, the young people are very important. The young people are the pillar of any generation to change. We can come up with strategies, but it can only be applied, you understand, to the young people.
Good.
So as we speak right now, I have a program that I've custom made. Personally, this one, I just want to speak to the boy child.
Yeah.
And like I said, the narrative is not, this is not a gender war.
Good. The
narrative is we need to prepare and empower a boy child to know how to deal with an empowered woman, which is very important.
Good.
The moment we are at par at that level, it will be so easy. Now we'll not have a gender that's playing a victim. Because right now, most men are being forced to become victims of situations force them to become a victim.
Yes.
You understand? It's more of the situation because you find that you are not prepared to deal with an empowered woman.
Yeah.
And then now she projects her power and her vision and all these things. And then you end up being in a cocoon because you feel like she's overpowering you.
Yeah. But
you become a victim.
We won't shrink, Daddy Owen.
That's what I'm saying. So the men become a victim
of the situation.
Yeah. Yet they're not supposed to become a victim. In fact, they need to lift this woman and encourage her, you want to do that? Let's go. Just do. You understand? Because you don't feel threatened.
Yes.
Because the moment you feel threatened, it means already you're playing a victim.
You're inferior.
You're inferior.
Good.
And you become a victim.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Has the program, I want to move next, but I don't want to deny people these details.
Yes.
Has the program, because I want to be intentional about supporting it.
Yeah.
Even before one day, because I haven't started. So I want to be around something that's working towards that direction. Has it started, or are you going to launch it, or what are the plans, and how can people be involved?
This is the biggest plan.
Yeah.
The biggest plan is we are planning to launch it third term this year.
Ah, good.
And we're going to schools. And apart from that, ours is like our all year program. It's not like only when they're in school.
Yeah.
Even when they're outside school, we want to make sure, because if you go back to things like, remember scouts in school?
Yes.
Those are clubs that if they were really empowered, they can be used to be a foundation of something great.
Yeah, they were amazing.
They were amazing.
Yeah.
So we want to form such things.
But please don't get into government. I won't.
No.
Not that I won't support, but
I'm getting
I have a dislike for.
No, I get your point.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we create such things that first and foremost, they feel like they own it. You understand? Good. And there's an agenda. You know, you don't want to just say this is a boys' club empowerment. You understand?
Yes. There
must be something that they can relate to at their age.
Good.
You see, for us, a narrative is very different. But for them, they don't know, even whatever they're experiencing.
They don't know.
They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know yet.
Yeah.
So you don't want to make your program to look like it's just boy child empowerment. No. This is not like you're going here to form a revolution. No.
On women.
This is just more of, you have to curate something that revolves around what they like. They like football, they like all the gamings and all these things. So even when they close school, you have programs running that, of course, is more of what they like their hobbies and all that. But in between, you're throwing into.
Yes. I feel like we have the best man for it, simply because I see there's a reason why you're doing it, not because this is something that is here, let's do it. It's something, I feel like, anyway, more grace to you on that. God's blessings upon you on that. If I was to involve myself with someone, honestly, I would gladly get involved with someone like you, because it has a foundation and you know why you're doing it. So socials are right here. Daddy Owen, you can always DM him also for more details. But let's get back to your marriage, right? For me, when news came out that your marriage, went how it went, of course, it comes with a lot of things from different blogs and stuff, Honestly, I was like, really? This is not it. Until you started speaking about it, you admitted. And I don't want to get deeper into what happened, all these things, because the other party is not here. But no one walks into a marriage wanting it to end that way. So maybe if you can take us through that period, maybe what happened. There are so many allegations here and there. Maybe if you can take us through what happened in your own words and the aftermath. How, as a man, do you look back at something so beautiful crashing, and what does that do to your mind and your mental state?
Number one, marriage is, for me, even till today, if you ask me, I believe marriage is one of the most beautiful things that God ever created. What maybe it's more of our definition of marriage is what changes so many things. And I can say I enjoyed that phase. I really enjoyed it. I can't complain about it. I enjoyed it. And maybe it didn't just pan out the way I wanted, and things went south and the cookie crumbled. But it's not the end of life. Because I remember that time, it was more like, wow, why did this happen? How am I in this situation and all that? But I was like, no, I must hold my thoughts, my solical, my spiritual, and everything around me. I must stand firm as a man and realize these are things that can happen to anyone. And I'm not the first person for something like that to happen to. It has happened to so many people. But my biggest worry has always been, in any situation, when such things happen, the mental state of the children. For me, that has always been an issue, because...
How many kids did you have together? Sorry?
We have 2 kids.
2.
So one of the biggest challenge is asking yourself, you see, me and you, Lynn, we can decide and say, let's get married. It's our decision. Because You're a mature person, we decided.
Yeah, mature about it.
You understand, yeah? But you see, kids
Don't get to decide.
Didn't choose to come here. You understand? So eventually, when such things happen, they're the ones who are mostly affected. We as the mature people, we are very selfish. We're very selfish to the kids because we deny them an opportunity to be who they are supposed to be. We deny them the environment. We deny them the mentorship. We deny them the foundation, which is very important. So I always feel like sometimes we punish them for our stupid decisions, and that's the most unfair thing. But anytime you make that decision as a mature person, I don't think anyone goes there saying, it might end. Unless in America, where I see guys sign prenups and say, if Tom Cruise has this thing that if you stay with me for 10 years, I don't know what happens. If you say another 10 years, this happens. So that one is very different. That's a different ballgame altogether. But when you're real and honest with each other and decide, now let's come together and have this family together.
Because no one has a gun on your head.
Yeah. It's a very different story.
Yeah.
So for me, I always believe that mine didn't go the right way, and it's normal. It's not a new thing. Even that time when everything was happening, I was like, I'm not the first one. It's not a new thing. These are things that always happen. It's only that the way they say it comes to the territory. Maybe just because I was a famous guy and it has happened and everyone knew about my marriage. That's why guys are blowing it out of proportion. But for me, I was like, it's normal. It happens. It has happened. So the only thing that was really disturbing me, the only thing that really affected me is, like I said, the children. Because growing up, how will they grow up? I've never been this person who sits down and decides, I just want to have kids all over the world. I'm around the country. I'm with different women. That's not my perspective of what a family should be. So it ended, and here we are. Yeah.
Where are we?
Well, that's a very nice question. That's really the best. That's a very good question.
Yeah.
Wow, I need to reflect on that. That's a very good question. Where are we? Because it's now like 2-3 years down the line.
Yeah.
It's not something that just happened yesterday. It's like, I don't know, it's like 3 years and counting.
Yeah.
I believe I've moved on to a level whereby all of us, we moved on to different trajectories.
Yes.
And where I am right now is more of just looking at life with a very different perspective. But I still, I thank God I don't come in I'm not in a situation whereby I feel like, hey, I can't get another woman. Yeah. Because women, you'll find women all of, and then at the same time where God has lifted me to a level whereby even my status in society, I can't struggle getting a woman. Yeah. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is, what is your plan now moving forward? And where are we is a very good question. Yeah,
you don't have to answer it now, though. You can reflect on it. Because we are here about where is here. Where are we? But let's go back to the kids, right? Because a lot of people are watching. And for me, it's always a two-part conversation. Because you also don't want to stay in a marriage that is not working simply because you have kids. You don't want your kids' stability to be your source of pain, right? So maybe the question I would ask, because I don't know who left who, I don't know, I can't ask for the other party. Maybe for you, the question would be, do you think there's anything you needed to do better to keep your family intact? Because I think it's also not okay to ask someone to stay because there are kids involved. You start actually getting frustrated even at the kids. You are the reason I'm suffering. You are the reason I'm going through what I'm going through, right? For you in that marriage, and I'm respecting, there's a part I'm trying to respect here. I do not want you to, we do not deserve the details of your private life, right? But for me, the question is, do you think there's anything you would have done better from your end to keep your marriage intact?
No, I always feel like I give 100% in everything I do. You understand? Maybe you're 100% sometimes 100% cannot be enough.
And your 100% to me, to you is not 100%.
Yeah. Maybe I've squeezed that lemon to the last juice, drop of juice.
Yes.
But maybe the situation feels like you have to squeeze it more. But you're like, I can't squeeze. This is the best I can do. I look back and I always feel like I gave 100% in everything. And I normally give 100%. Guys know me for even my music, I give 100%. Even when like right now I'm working with people with disability, I always give 100%.
Yes.
In my trajectories and everything I say, I'm that guy who follows up and makes sure that whatever I do is 100%.
Yeah.
So I feel I gave 100%. But I don't know, maybe it was not enough. And I think one of the most weird thing was when the story came out and when I was doing the interviews, I think one of the most weird thing that I noticed from the comments, everyone was just like, they wanted to hear me talking bad about my ex. And I used to find that to be so absurd and weird because, number one, I have no right to talk about someone else
in a negative light.
Yeah, and their decisions.
Yeah, you see what I did there? You have no right
to
talk about someone else in a negative light.
Someone called Calligraph Jones. Someone called the OG.
Please. I'm the new OG in town. Come play.
So I can't do that. That's not me.
Yes.
And then number two, whether I like it or not, whether she projects her life differently or she does something different with her life, this one thing that cannot change. She's the mother of my kids at the end of the day.
Period.
That's over. And you see, people don't understand what we are doing right now. Just sitting in front of cameras. These videos
will play.
You understand? In the next 20, 30 years from now. So, can you imagine one day your son is seated like this in his living room and watching you
trash their mother?
You understand? And I used to find that to be very absurd. And guys are like, oh, this guy is just a weak guy. I'm like, it's not about, I don't need to project your negativity just to satisfy you understand? Your ego and everything.
Yes.
Just for me to say things to satisfy your imagination. Yeah, I don't do that. And that's not me.
Yeah.
And for me, it's more of when guys decide to move on, they move on with their life, and because you can't sit there doing nothing. I've said, I'm always very intentional. Very intentional. In every action, whether I fail or I make it, I'm always very intentional. So even if I fail, I know I failed and I was very intentional about this. It's rare, very rare for something to get me flat-footed. Yeah.
Hi man, we are learning a lot. Huh? More grace to you. But allow me to ask about the aftermath, you know, your mental state.
Yeah.
No, you did not answer me. Do you think it's fair to stay because of the kids? Then we can move on to our next.
Wow, that's a very hard question. Because, you see, what is the limitation? I always ask that question.
Yeah.
Because I have this narrative. There's something called the matrix, which decides and come up with narratives, how we should live our lives. And the moment they start projecting things like what is divorce, how divorce should happen, and how easy. Because, you see, what made divorce look so easy, it was being projected by Hollywood movies. You understand? Because Hollywood is the flagship of the matrix. So I feel like nowadays, it's so easy for someone to walk out. By a virtue, they just feel, hey, this thing is just too much for me. It's just too much for me. But no one thinks beyond that. No one thinks, because marriage is a sacrifice. Who are you sacrificing for? If marriage really is a sacrifice, who are you sacrificing for?
My family.
You understand? So if it's your family, what is a family unit?
My husband and my kids.
You understand my point, yeah? So it's so easy for someone now to say, hey, I was not getting what I wanted. It's not enough for me.
I don't want this.
I don't want this. But what is the sacrifice? Because I don't think even if you walk around right now, we can find more than 90% of people who are going to the office and doing a job that they like. They're doing it because they're taking a sacrifice. But how come it's so easy to take a sacrifice?
On your job.
On your job, but not on marriage. Because I always feel like if the man is not violent or if the woman is not violent, because nowadays we have to say both sides. Yeah? If there's no violence and all this,
we gotta say both sides because we are not so innocent, you know.
So if the man is not violent, so nowadays if the man is not violent, the woman is not violent.
Yeah.
Why can't you just sacrifice for the kids? Because what is sacrifice? It means you have to deny yourself something for a greater good, for something bigger. And if your kids are not that greater good, they're not enough to be your greater good, then I feel like your priorities are skewed somewhere.
Yeah.
And imagine I'm speaking as someone who is not right now, because I know guys will be like, oh, we are doing Mambo Yamad. I know Mambo Yamad. I live with someone for 10 years. So I know what I'm talking about. So if it's not enough, if your kids are not enough for you to sacrifice some of these things in this way, because I always feel like most men and most women always feel like, I can get better. I can find better.
I can do better.
I can do better. But if the better is not those kids already that you have, then what
is
more?
Better?
Yeah.
Do the kids ask questions, and what kind of answers do you provide?
That is so obvious. Kids must ask questions because they're at that tender age of being inquisitive and wanting to know.
Why are you guys not together?
All those questions will always come. So that is, I think that's one of the biggest challenge that most single mothers or most single fathers go through. Because the moment they start asking those questions, you always need to have an answer. Because of course they go to school and they're like, hey, how come this is not the same
How
way?
come I don't have this?
Yeah, understand? So all those questions will come. But you have to agree on what you say. What you'll say. You have to agree on what you'll say. And of course, give them an answer that time.
And also as they grew, you give answers
because
as
you can't
they
give
grew.
them
Too much information.
Yes,
Good. I'll leave it at that. I appreciate your honesty. Let's talk about your mental state, you know. Because you said, I gotta handle this as a man.
Yeah, of course.
Imenipata. Nitaihandle kimwanaume, you know.
Jikaza
kimwanaume. But when all the lights are off, when it's quiet,
you're looking at the ceiling.
Na niwewe tu na hiyo bed peke yako.
Yeah.
And you're looking at the ceiling and you're asking yourself questions after questions after questions. How did you deal with that phase of your life?
I think it's that testing time.
Yeah.
That thing that when push comes to shove,
Yes.
you have to be tested. You have to be pushed to that limit as a man. I believe you have to be pushed to that limit. For these are things that must shape you. These are things that must mold you. And from that aspect is whereby now you'll morph and become a different kind of a man. Because I feel it was so timely for me to go through that, so that even when I'm going to talk to this boy child, I'll tell them, and by the way, I'll be very honest with those boys. I'll be vulnerable. I'll be very honest with them. Because I feel like these boys now, they need that. Our fathers were taught
not to give you that.
Yes. So for them to understand where I'm coming from, I need to be vulnerable. I need to be very honest with them. And I can assure you, I'll be very honest with them. So that moment, that phase in my life really prepared me for the greater good that I'm going to do to the boy child.
Did you battle depression?
Yeah. Looking back, because most men always say, there's no depression. Depression doesn't exist. But looking back, you're like, there's a moment where you feel like there's so much in your mind. Even David had that phase when he went to the wilderness when Absalom kicked him out of the palace. And that's why he wrote most of his Psalms. And even Jesus had a moment where he was like, God,
Take this cup.
take this cup. Because sometimes it's huge. You feel like, and he had that moment that he was told, no, my son. God had to send. You understand? Had to send Elijah to come and tell him,
Yeah.
you can do it.
You can do it.
You can do it.
Good. You can do it.
Yeah, you can do it.
You can
So
do it.
it was that moment of take away this cup. But if it's your will,
If it's your will.
and God showed me, it's his will. Right now, I'm still here. Yeah.
Do you believe in love? Do you believe in marriage? Would you work it out? Where are you? Do you still believe in love and marriage?
Love is a very beautiful thing.
Oh yeah,
If you find the beauty of love is when you love someone and they love you back. That's the beauty of love.
God.
That's the beauty of love.
I think everyone's prayer is, that has always also been my greatest worry. I don't want to be the lover and not loved back.
Yeah.
I feel like it's such a beautiful connection
Yeah.
if the one you love loves you back.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Like, it's one of the most amazing things. And if you look back, you're like, I had my moments. I had my moments. Yeah, I had my moments, and there are people you were like, why didn't I marry this one? You understand? But I had my moments.
Yes.
You look back and you're like, this chick really loved me. This chick really loved me.
Yeah. No, but you know what they say about men, though, not in a bad way. You don't see who loves you.
It's not that.
It is that.
No, sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's more of, like I said, it can be, you love me so much, but I don't feel the same way
About you. Yeah.
So the worst thing is, if I get into it and then I don't give you back
What you're giving me.
Yeah, I feel guilty as a man because that's like slavery.
Yeah, so usiingie in the first place.
So most men anakata kuingia not because we don't see.
Yes.
We see, but it's just like, that's boys are here. They'll tell you. There's a talk that we always have. You're like, hey, akadem kananipenda sana, akatakatesa. You know?
Muga rada.
Akatakatesa bure. You understand? It's there. You're just like, hey, this chick, hey. Akuja pale manza anaosha zile vyombo jo. Kitamba yangu ya white inakuanga white akiwa pale manzi kitamba jo. You understand? Unaingia unapata ulisha katika tenyana na vitunguu hata unajua utapika nini. You know those things. So you're like, hey, manze, she's good.
Yeah.
Hey, she's, I mean, this one, yeah?
Don't hurt a good woman.
Yeah, I understand. Because you feel like there's always a nice person that will marry her.
Yeah.
And it's not like that you don't see. We see. We see.
Lakini unaona hujafika.
Unaona tu utamtesa.
Unaacha tu.
Yeah, unaona tu unaacha. And I think sometimes men pia si tunavaa kublame.
Daddy Owen, we answer podcast, man. You are doing you go start and call me, I'll come in as a guest. Answer podcast, man. It's good vibes. Yeah? It's good vibes.
So sometimes as men, mimi nakanga chini jiambia, pia men tunavaa kujiblame sana because
si sana.
Yeah. Because in us there's that thing of the conqueror. You understand?
The lion is here.
You always feel like ule dem ananikataa. Uyo ndo mimi nataka. So you always feel like, no, you like the chase. Yeah, you like the chase and then you conquer.
Till you are 40.
Man.
Then inakuhit.
Oh,
man. Ningetulia tu endelea kuchase.
This is a very good discussion.
Yeah, but
ati ya wenye watch wanajua tena sema. Hawezi admit mbele yake. Lakini kwa zile boys zile maboys WhatsApp group.
Ile side iko na manodes. Unamwachia your cat. Kienda majuu, she takes care of your cat in your absence. You know?
Kuna mnaangelelea hapa.
Bado itoshi. You still want to go and you know me, I say go conquer. You go out there and conquer.
That's the problem. That's
Yes.
the problem.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
That's the problem, man.
Yeah, that's the problem. So we always like the chase, and sometimes it's
until
not a good
you are
thing.
40.
Yeah, we
man.
waste so much, and then we miss out on
a good one. Then unamuoneanga saa kwa Instagram na venye aliendelea man. Konkara.
I wish hapa na ningekuwa.
Konkara. Then unaanza kuslide kwa DM za watu walishaolewa. What's wrong with you, man?
Unajua wanaume anakuanga na hiyo kitu ndani yao. Like tukianza nikamwambia wanaume wako na hiyo kitu ndani yao.
I gotta conquer.
I have to conquer.
Wacheni man.
Yeah.
But I'm happy you believe in love again.
No, me believe in love.
Yeah.
Me believe in love.
Yes.
That is a beautiful thing.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, you see, your worst experience cannot take away what is good. Just because you had a worst experience about it. There's a T.D. Jackson anasemanga every day, when Aqua amefika Dallas, brother yake alikuwa kwanza kwenda Dallas. Yeah. So the brother akiingia Dallas, alimwambia Dallas is a very bad place. There are thugs there. You understand? So the guy was like, every year anaogopa kuingia Dallas because he's like, hey, huko Dallas, ndaendaje? So when he was called to go to Dallas, him akiingia, aliingia akachukuliwa na limu, akapelekwa hotel, akapewa chaperone, akapewa all these things. Yeah. And he was like, this is the Dallas that my brother was talking about. So everyone has their own experience about Dallas.
Yes.
So just because his brother had a bad experience about Dallas, it doesn't mean Dallas is a bad place. So for me, just one worst experience doesn't mean that Dallas is a bad place.
Yes. Your challenge, your podcast, chukulia seriously. please, Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson.
I'll be happy to watch.
Yeah,
no, that one, I am very invested in.
Thank you so much.
But, guy, na feel ata sign stuck you wende.
Yes, me. I
feel like vibe check is on 100%, man. But, of course, I know we have to wind up. But looking back, are you proud of yourself?
Very, very. The only, if I look back and only say, then the regret I have, I wish I married early.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I wish I married early.
Around what age?
20 something.
Na sa hiyo ndio bado kamshahara kajaongezeka.
Ndio poa.
Why?
Nilikuwa naambiwa, oh, you have to, I look back and I'm like, nilikuwa nangojea nini? Because you always said, wait fast. But what are you waiting for? Nothing. Because your mindset at that time, it might be different, but if I got married at 25, my kid right now go how old?
Yeah, angekuwa hapo anamaliza teenagehood.
Yeah. I wish I got married early. Yeah. That's the only regret I have. I wish I got kids early. That's the only regret I have. Yeah, looking back.
Yeah. But everything happened.
Yeah. I always say
everything happens.
In more of just ile imagination yako, you understand?
Yes.
But God knows why.
Yeah.
But if you ask me, looking back, I had a chance to do all those things in my 20s, but I was just, you're missing out on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a chance. Ana watch.
Haya, atumtumie shout out. Unajam, hakuna mwenye hallelujah brother can live here without kutuma salamu.
Natuma salamu lakini sasa kuvunja nyumba.
No. Anyways, but let's just briefly talk about our gospel industry.
Yeah.
So much talk right now
around
it, you know. And I don't know if it's people have lost faith in the gospel industry or the representation of the people they used to look up to. You know, me, I grew up in the era, of course, as I said, Nini, you know, Rafton, Masi Masika, Akambua. It used to be an amazing. Use those moments, man. Hey, you know, there's when I was working in, where was I? Between Dubai and Qatar. My shifts, off days, you know, you just get one off day. So it's more of cleaning, laundry, and maybe going for a movie later on. And man, there are songs I would put and rewind and rewind. It was so beautiful. And now I'm looking back. It's a sad state of affair. Of course, I won't lie. To be honest, there are people I can't listen to. I don't care how whether I'll be judged or not. I will not listen to you. You are wearing a dress. I will not listen to you. Of course, I don't like your representation. I'll not listen to you, but what do you think about and what's going on?
I think it's it's a tough time because it was more of a, it's like the 12 tribes. So they had to disperse and then come back together again. But during that time when they went to the wilderness, it's more of God is just trying to bring in some new remnant. And I believe even right now, this phase, I've seen it before. It's not the first time I'm seeing it. It's a phase I've seen it before. And it's a phase that, it's a deep that we have to go into. There's a deep that we have, it's called a J curve. In everything, there's a J curve. So when you start going deep, you have to go deep, but there's a moment inside there that you start climbing back. But before you climb back, God always makes sure that we have a new generation that will understand what the gospel is. If you read your Bible, you'll discover that the children of Israel had a chance to enter into the promised land. But do you know why they didn't enter? They didn't enter because they sent in the 12 guys, the 12 spies, and only 2 came back believing that they can go to that land and conquer. The rest 10 told the guys, oh, kule kuna giants, we can't enter. But that was the moment, because the plan was for them to enter that time and conquer those giants, but they didn't. And those two who believed they'll conquer that land, they're the only ones who entered the promised land. That was Joshua and Caleb. Yeah. So that's the same thing. Even right now, we are in that trajectory, that there's a generation that didn't represent the gospel. Well, there were more of course, grumbling here and there, complaining and doing all these things that they think was meant to be done in Egypt to be brought to the promised land. So we're going to the promised land. The few that will make it,
well,
let's
and
make
good.
it together.
Let's make it. But before we wind up, there's something I needed to ask you on when you are facing, depression and everything. As a man, who did you talk to?
I had to look for my friends, because I categorize most of my friends with the different strength. The people who will understand me from the industry perspective, the people who will understand me from the ministry perspective, the people who will understand me from a family perspective. I talk to my brother a lot. He's my great mentor. My big brother is my great mentor. And then I talk to my pastors who, of course, talk to me about spirituality and all that. And then, of course, I talk to some few guys here and there who are in the gospel industry, or not even the gospel, in the entertainment industry, who, per se, you don't expect them to give you an answer that is spiritual, but they'll give you a reality that you're facing at that moment. So you need those guys who, they'll be tough on you. You understand? They'll be tough on you and they'll be like, hey, bro, you're losing it. Wake up in the morning, let's go. You understand? So I categorize those things in those
different groups.
And I think one of the greatest things that I feel like really affected me at that time is I used to be in a committee in church whereby I used to be the MC of our church, but I had to step down because of who I was and what had happened. Because you don't want to wait for the pastor to come and tell you, hey, Lynn, sasa now, you have to, mwenye niliamoto, yacha nifunge virago zangu niende. But I think the sabbatical right now, I've worked on myself. I've worked on myself spiritually, mentally, and all that. So I pray to God that I can go back to what I used to do.
Okay, good. Again, more grace.
Thank you.
Grace.
Amen.
But you mentioned about your kids watching this later on in life. If your kids are to watch you one day, what would you want them to know about their father?
I want them to know their father did his best. Like, the father always gave 100%. If you go back to history, you'll discover, even to date, I don't know, someone will do a check. I think I'm a single artist with most accolades in Kenya. I think. With most awards, I think I'm that one artist.
Congratulations.
And I thank God for that. And apart from that, I've transformed more than 3,000 lives of children living with disability.
Wow.
Last year alone, I built a children's home in Eldoret.
Good job.
And of course, through grants, consultation we built a hospital in Kijabe, a ward for hospital in Kijabe for children who are born with disabilities. And my championing for children who are born with disability has been there for 10 years.
Yeah.
And each and every year, I'm fighting to change their lives.
Yes.
And even right now, I'm working towards making sure that we eradicate conditions like club foot, conditions which kids are born with, but it can be corrected when the child is young.
Yeah.
The only thing that they don't know is information that these are conditions that can be corrected. So my advocacy is to just preach to the parents. If you have a kid who is born with any form of physical disability, 87%, more than 87% right now, we're talking about 90s, more than 87%, it can be corrected when the child is still young. So I believe my legacy is to make sure that we change that narrative. Kids should not live with any kind of form of physical disability that can be corrected.
Good.
And mostly it's not about the medical care, mostly it's about the awareness is not out there. So I'm preaching to all the parents. If you have a kid who you feel like they have any form of physical disability, just go to the hospital and make sure they are being checked when they're still very young. Some of these conditions can be corrected, and a kid will never even know that they had any form of disability. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So my championing about the children with disability has always been going on. My ministry in the gospel music, I've always stayed true to the word since day one when I started to date. I've seen guys come and go, but I've always stayed in the word, preaching the gospel, staying saved. Without, sometimes controversy can find you, but I always believe to date, I've never had any controversy, and I thank God for that. I'm not saying that I'm pure than anyone or I'm better than anyone. I'm not perfect.
Yes.
These are things that God has just seen me through. And my consistency, being relevant for all these years, is not easy.
It's not a joke.
It's not a joke, and it's not easy. And I thank God for that.
Yeah.
And this is just the beginning of a new phase of who I am.
I see great things.
Amen.
Bro, I see beautiful things with your name on it. And then I can always say, now I know Daddy Owen on a first name basis. Papa Fulolo.
Uncle Mutulele, Lino le Pepino, Mokoto nanga for chasing out the evil spirit.
We had to go
Mzee
there.
mwenye pamba nzito.
Yes.
Mzee mwenye pamba nyepesi.
Sasa tuma salamu kwa mtu wako amemsita. Tuma salamu bro.
Ni mtu famous,
Wewe
tuma salamu.
Si use tuma si anajijua, tuma salamu.
Nimetuma salamu kwa wewe. Anajijua.
Owen. Before watu wajue what they have, man.
We mess up big time. Let's say, what is it to say? Let's say waste another opportunity right now. Right now I'm very keen.
You are very keen.
Niko na jicho moja. Lakini
imefunguka.
Yeah, nina jicho moja lakini naona mbali.
I see what you did.
Naona mbali. Naona mbali sana.
Man, this has been fun.
Thank you.
You know, I want to wind up, but before I do and ask you my last question, is there anything you feel like we left out that you want to touch on briefly?
No, I just feel like, number one, I just feel like in this world, people don't give other people their flowers. And I think today I want to give you your flowers. I believe you're doing a good job. You're giving people very inspirational stories. People don't watch you because of your name or any other thing, or your features or any other thing. They watch you because of the inspirational stories that you project to us. We follow you. We follow what you say. We follow what people come here and say. And you make people vulnerable on this chair. People say things that they can never say on any other podcast or any other interview. And I must give you your flowers. Okay. I've watched your journey. You've been so real. And off camera, I know you very well. You're very real and honest. And I want to give you your flowers.
Thank you.
Continue doing what you're doing. Continue inspiring people. Don't stop. We'll have naysayers, we'll have all these things around you, but don't stop what you're doing. Let's transform people's lives. Let's inspire more people. And let's change lives.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Appreciate.
Anytime.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. You don't get to hear it often, but I keep telling myself.
No, I know.
One story at a time.
No, even for us, you find people will never tell you these things until maybe something happens to you. That's why they, hey, I'll come to. No, no, no.
Yeah.
Let's give you your flowers right now.
we are
You're still
still
alive.
here.
Yeah. Smell your flowers.
Thank you.
Appreciate the colors of your flowers. Touch the petals of your flowers. Feel the texture. They smell so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can feel the aroma.
Yeah.
Of your flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I won't fail you. That's
Keep
a
it up.
guarantee.
Keep it up.
That's a guarantee.
And may God lead you.
Amen.
May God bless
He
you.
does.
Yeah.
He does.
Amen.
When you listen. Oh, sorry. First time, man. That's on record. First time. I'm always here, man. I'll be here, like, hey, you know. That's
It's okay.
that's
It's okay.
good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're
You know,
welcome.
and it's just one of those things you hear, and you know, I was like, so super. I said I missed this set.
Yeah.
I haven't driven to work for a while, and we were just on express, and I was like, it's long since we went to work.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I was just, God, it's beautiful.
Amen.
And thank you for making it awesome. You know.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes. What
I
keeps
appreciate
you going?
My why. Yeah.
Your why.
Yeah. I know my why. I know my purpose.
Good.
Yeah. The moment you know your purpose, you'll always live your life to the fullest.
Yeah.
The hardest thing is to live your life without a purpose. But the moment you know, you can live your life without knowing your purpose. That's another dangerous thing. Yeah. It's a dangerous thing. You have to know your purpose. The moment you know your purpose, that's your why. That's why you're doing what you're doing to children who are born with disability or to the people with disability. The why you're still holding on to the Christianity and the gospel industry. The why you want to change the lives of boy child. The why you want to transform people's lives. So my why is what keeps me going.
Good.
And my why is anchored on the word of God.
On the word of God. Beautiful. You don't know, this is our rebuilding season 2. You're the first guest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've set a good foundation.
You've set a good foundation. And I can't wait for our rebuilding season 2.
Amen.
Season 1 was incredible.
Amen.
People were impacted. Even for me, it's a different path.
Amen.
It's a challenge I'm posing to myself. I want to heal. I want to restore.
Amen.
You know, we've sat on these chairs and we've witnessed broken souls.
Yeah.
And now I just feel like it's time for them to watch a person telling them, I've been there, I've done this, and this is how I came out of it.
Yeah.
That's actually the main reason why I decided we need to have a rebuilding series. So that people who are watching, because I can only sit here and talk to broken people for so long. But if I don't show them how to restore what's been broken, how to pick back the pieces, how do I go, how do I survive after this, how do I keep moving forward? I just feel like God will be looking at me funny and saying, Lynn, takuchapa. And for me, if there is one thing, as Les Brown says, I don't want to be, you know, that epiphany of in a grave and you die and there are so many things asking you, Lynn, why did you not do this? Why did you not? So when I feel something, I don't wait. I just act on it because I feel like it's been beautiful. And we are restoring people's lives. Even right now, a man will watch you and they will be like, God. That's my dream. That even one person. It's not for thousands. I know they get crazy views. They get hundreds of thousands of... It's for that one person who will watch and they become... Can I touch on that? Yes. Can I touch on that? Yes. There's a story in Mark, I think in Mark 5 or something. Yeah. When Jesus was preaching to the 5,000. After that, we are told they wakaingia kwa boat move to another town. Yes. I think it's called the Capitalist or something. Yeah. Reaching there, they found a man who had legions of demons in him. And he was alikuwa amefungwa in a graveyard or gravesite, something. So, when Jesus came to that guy, he cast out demons. And the demons asked him, should you kindly send us to the pigs? And he cast the demons from the man to the pigs. And the first thing the guy... After that thing happened, after that scenario happened, the men of that town chased away Jesus because they're like, hey, our pigs and all that. And this guy was like, hey, I need to follow you.
because now you're going away. I need to follow you. But Jesus told him, no, don't follow me. Why? Because Jesus told him, I want you to stay here and tell them what happened to you. If you move 2 chapters after that, we are told, when Jesus went back to that town, everyone knew who he was. Why? Because of that one person. One person that was left behind to say about the goodness of who Jesus was. And when the moment he came back in the next like 2 chapters, they brought a deaf and a dumb guy, and they're like, kindly heal this person. How do they know that he can heal them? Because this guy, the one person was left in that town, he preached about the goodness of Jesus. So if you can impact one person, you can change a town, you can change a society, you can change a generation, and you never know how big your impact can be.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that.
So when you said the one person, I was like, I have to drop the story.
Man.
I like preaching, so sorry guys. This is not a sermon, sorry.
No, they are listening. They are listening. They are listening. What I could quote, if you want to know they are serious, people, they quote the last minute, and sometimes I asked, this was a 2-hour conversation, a 1 hour plus, and you all sat and watched until the last minute. So for me, you are not here by mistake. You are here because you are destined to speak to us today, even as they are watching. This message needed to reach whoever it's going to reach. It's been an honor having you. To be honest, I didn't think this was going. I don't know the direction the conversation took, but it's been beautiful.
I've enjoyed it.
One of the most beautiful, authentic conversations I've had. You know, and as I always say, first, thank you for giving me my flowers. As I always say, go out and conquer. Go out, conquer.
Amen.
See ile conquer. Ile conquer. See your conquer. See your conquer. But go out there and conquer. May your name be remembered by many because of the legacy that you are going to leave behind. You know, my words to you.
Thank you.
You know, by grace. Through faith.
Amen.
All right?
Amen.
Shall we wind up?
Kabisa.
Yeah. Wakupate wapi. I know they know you.
So so for me, you can find me on Instagram as Daddy Owen. Twitter, Daddy Owen Music. Facebook, Daddy Owen. YouTube, Daddy Owen Music. So those are my handles, and even TikTok, Daddy Owen.
Daddy Owen. So tufungie tuna kavas man. Kakitu tu, tuimbie tu.
Kakitu
kakitu tu.
Kakitu kazuri,
Kakitu kazuri tu, please. Yes.
Na kuishi kwangu niwe, kulala kwangu niwe, kuvaa kwangu ni wewe baba. Maisha yangu ni wewe, baba ni wewe, uzima wangu ni wewe Yawe. Hata kama sina pesa, hata kama sina mali, hata kama sina, kwa mapenzi najua utatenda. Maisha yangu ni wewe, baba ni wewe, uzima wangu ni wewe Yawe. Eyo zali, zali, tumefunga. Bye bye guys.
Thank you Daddy Owen. Thank you man. Hii show ni wewe God. Man, thank you. Kila kitu kwa hii show ni God. So thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for, I don't know how much time we took today, but thank you for taking your time. For being on time. For taking your time. For being on time.
Someone call OG.
Hey, bana. You
are rhyming here, bana.
Hii career yangu ina need to support. Unipeleke kwa studio. Then you feature.
No, OG. Where are you man?
Wacha.
Omolo.
Si ndio? Ama wanataka nikuwe wanjakiero. It's a wrap. I appreciate you once again. Thank you for coming. Guys, what a show, what a conversation. I always say everything happens for a reason. And this conversation happened for a reason. And I feel like we've learned a lot. On the comment section, please do let me know what your take home is, because for me, it's a lot. These are one of those shows that I will rewind and just watch time and time again, you know, because there's just so much wisdom, vulnerability, authenticity that comes with it. And I can only hope you guys were inspired. And as we've said, that one person, mwenye atashika hii message, spread the word, so that when we come back on our next show, we also find people prepared to listen, because you went ahead and you did spread the word, you know. So if you want to get in touch with my guest today, he's Daddy Owen, of course. So socials are right here on the screen. If you want to get in touch with me, info@lnn.digital, that's where you can be able to find me, or lynn.ngugi@lnn.digital. And of course, I can't end or wind up this program, otherwise watu wangu wa finance watanichapa vibaya sana, without saying thank you so much to our incredible partners at Kings Developers Limited. I've always said I don't bring you just a sponsor because we need the money. Of course, everyone wants, we have to, and God has blessed us with amazing sponsors, but I always do a lot of due diligence. I do not want you to buy apartments or invest your hard-earned money on something that won't last. And that's why on our first meeting with people at Kings Developers Limited, my X factor has always been there, ISO certified. So they are credible. You can walk to their office at Prism Towers if you want to invest in an apartment. They have flexible payment plans and they will not go away anytime soon. Ati muamke siku moja and be like, inaitwa coin, inaitwa nini?
Worldcoin.
Muskie kitu nikawa hizo, and then they have disappeared. Ask me those questions if they do, because I know they won't. So if you're looking into an investment plan, something middle, upper end, and you're looking into getting an apartment, why don't you pay Kings Developers? I even feel like I shouldn't advertise for them. I'm just telling you because I've worked with them. I was with them in London. They are doing incredible things. Hawaongeangi story mob, and if you've noticed, they also don't advertise a lot. So even for them, settling up with us was just a dream come true. Go get yourself an apartment with someone who won't con you of your hard-earned money. And even if you're not able to pay, hiyo saa yote, maybe you have kidogo kidogo, go talk to them on your payment plan, and they are very flexible. Great amenities. I don't know what to say about them. Judge from the photos that are running on your screen right now, but their contact details are right here on the screen, and you can also ask me questions or call them directly here on the screen. To my incredible team that does this amazing job. Leo tu he said ilikuwa wase kunodi hivi, especially your party ya bed sitter. People are just nodding. Please stop taking what you have for granted. Stop taking what you have for granted. Mtu ukimwachia your cat and they take care of it, please be grateful. If someone cooks for you nice food, just be grateful about it. You get what I'm saying? If someone anaokota your socks from whatever corners of the room umezitupa and they take care of you, can you just be appreciative of them? You know who I'm talking about. So asanteni sana Edgar, Scholar, Muga, of course, our other incredible editors, Kelvin and Sam, compiling this episode and making sure it reaches you guys right on time. What do you love about rebuilding? Let me know. And who should we feature next? You can also put it on the comment section. I gotta go change. I have another guest coming in. But till then, see you tomorrow at 10 a.m.